Thanks, Maddie. Thanks for making the time to come on the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Uh, Awesome. So, just to give you a backstory, I the you popped on my radar because Ravindran Solomon, who I talked to before,
Yes.
mentioned that you have to talk to Maddie, and yeah, so here we are.
Yeah.
Thanks once again. Um, it's very interesting to see your work because a few things that kind of popped out to me when seeing your work. I mean, I'm not talking about your commercial work, but your personal work is one. It very much reminded me of the Japanese photographer Daido Moriyama. And if you've
He, he,
heard of
he,
that guy, so
he,
he had
he,
uh, one of his most famous iconic photographs is
the dog,
photograph of a mongrel dog.
mongrel. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So very much your Appa and your animals reminded me. It
Yeah.
re- it's I'm not sure if it was intentional, but it reminded me of the Daidu's work, sort of the absurdity of life. Because look around you, everybody is chasing perfection, chasing beauty, chasing the whatever version of beauty, but the stark opposition is your work, right? So, and the other thing is you mixed your drawings. Uh, Before you actually, I read one of your interviews. I felt like it looks like a caveman's drawing, and you had mentioned
Yeah.
that in one of your interviews as well. I was like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'm right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so how
Yeah.
did you sort of get here?
Okay. So this is something about the aesthetic you're talking about. How do we get to this kind of
Yeah,
an aesthetic?
yeah, like
Yeah.
how you sort of arrived at this kind of style, if I can call it that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. To talk about, the reference that you brought about, Moriyama's thing, meaning a lot of black and white photographers are influenced by those kind of textures, especially someone who just goes like a madman, shoots everything, and then like pushes the grain. And so the aesthetic is not derived from that. However, uh, like I think like a lot of us are, of course, influenced by something. Seeing those kind of things, seeing a lot of other photographers, seeing grainy black and white movies that are made in the 50s, 60s in Japan, Europe, and India, and those kind of things. So, in your and then like even now, a lot of photographers practice this kind of aesthetic when it um, comes to this kind of work, which is personal documentary, and actually, in a way, we are going out and shooting it, um, knowing that the results are not guaranteed. Um, we sometimes use kind of certain kind of film or certain kind of cameras, light, and uh, go out and take pictures. That doesn't guarantee. So therefore, we are actually not playing on the luck, but depending on it to turn it into something. So then you can shape it into something. So that is one part of the process, um, which is like going away from. Say, for example, at some point, digital was kind of very, very um, predictive, predictable, right? Like you know the results and you tweak the results as you go. So therefore, you want something a little bit more outside the box of that digital knowable realm. So therefore, you choose some processes like analog that will give you some amount of predict in like non-predictability or surprise that you call it. Plus, when it comes back, you are not satisfied with the experience fully because you know that you are sensing not in a unidimensional picture, which is a photograph. You're sensing a certain fear or excitement or hope or something else, which is another dimension, which maybe in a movie it's possible to add with sound or whatever, but in a picture, like I wanted to like try writing and then a little bit of drawing so that it kind of encapsulates what I'm feeling in my head. Like when I'm seeing a picture, I'm like remembering some conversation, I'm remembering some image immediately. So it's your mind, like when you talk to somebody about your experience, you'll be thinking all that. But in a picture, it just comes as one image. So, like in most of these personal projects, I see that as an entry point, the image. It's not the exact, it's just the entry point, and then you kind of construct some things around it and to make that experience your own. A lot of people, of course, do it like this, whether they use drawings on the wall like Roger Bally. There is Saurabh Hura, who's done beautiful work on his mother, and a lot of his pictures are, driven by this kind of an aesthetic. And some people do use drawings and writings as well, like what I do. But it's kind of like some people like it because it's more like diaristic and like from the inner world. But this practice developed also because I kind of moved away from, for my personal work, traditional pictures. I do like painterly traditional pictures as well. I really like that. But on the other side, I wanted to create something a bit more avant-garde and a bit more unconventional. And so therefore I thought, like, what are the low-key elements of just drawing and writing and like black and white and grainy pictures, and see if I can, play with it. And yeah, so it worked out and continues to work out uh, because it's like, so many years of trying this out, and at some point it clicks. So
Right.
so many years of scribbling, so many years of writing, noticing something, tearing and pasting things on things. So it kind of like, it works like that. And it's more like a part of learning, part of unlearning, part of like thinking that, okay, we'll try it out. What does that lose kind of a thing? Yeah.
Right.
Right. So part intention to add, part intention to delete, something like this
Right. But has
comes up.
this practice uh, influenced your commercial work, or I mean,
Mm.
does
Mm.
that how has it improved, quote unquote, improved your work?
Um, okay. By work, do you mean commercial work or like
Commercial
work?
work, like because
Okay.
commercial work, you are mandated by the brief, so as to speak, like you
Yes.
have
Yeah.
commercial
Yeah. Yeah.
restriction
Yeah.
as to, like, you have to deliver to specifications.
Yeah.
um but uh, have you got the freedom to sort of mm, portray your style in that, in terms of your personal work, the
Yeah.
artist in you?
Yeah. I would say, like, in some cases, yes. The thing how it works is that, um, the clients who care about your work, of course, the commission work is how we um, get our monies, and that's how we kind of sustain. So I'm very grateful for all those jobs that comes my way. They are also like interested in what I do as personal work, what I do as like something that sits between personal and commission, which I do for portraits for friends or musicians. So there are three types
Beautiful.
of like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
there is
think
obviously the commercial work that is based on a brief and a problem
right.
solution and attraction, those kind of things. But the clients are very happy to work with me sometimes because they know that I do like something offbeat. So that informs them that maybe we can do slightly more authentic work with his team or my team. And those people who like musicians or like other artists or some fashion clients that I have, some of them, they are like ready to kind of even draw a little bit more from my personal aesthetic. So it's been working also because I kind of stayed away from a lot of clients who want purely a commercial image, which I may not be able to, create it for them. So I sometimes tell them that I'm not the person and put them on to some things. Yeah. So in a
So
way,
that
it's
has
worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there has to
Yeah.
be
In
like
a way,
a
it's
between the brand and you as well.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, like
Right.
sometimes, like in the commercially and aesthetically, there is a fit. Sometimes there is a philosophical fit that is much more important. wouldn't call it spiritual, but more philosophical about how do you view life and how do you view like people around you. Like what kind of makes you kind of go around kind of things. So if a
Right.
little bit of that kind of matches, then you are able to explore a little bit more, and you're able to give clients more, experiment more for them, go a little bit more for them. They'll do the same for us. Yeah.
So, I mean, just going back to your upbringing, when I see some of your interviews that you shared with me, and also some of your writings, you had a very uh, different kind of in terms of your home was filled with a lot of literature, very intellectual upbringing, if right. So, and your brother was a photographer as well. So, did that sort of influence your entry into photography? And is there where your magic realism influence started as well?
Yes, yeah, I think whatever you mentioned is true. Like there's one side, um, the opportunity that I had to see my dad and his friends in their, like in their true uh, selves and powers, discussing stuff and reading and having so many books in the house, magazines, and a lot of magazines, international film magazines, kind of still informs the kind of aesthetic that I'm going in for, which is a bit surreal or editorial or and later the magic realism part also happened because um, I started reading a lot of fiction that is that's got magical elements happening. The first step was to read an obvious, uh, fantasy scenario books, and then go into scenarios that are not like constructed with fantasy, but with human drama, like what we go through and what we imagine. So in all these things, I feel there is the world that kind of expanded suddenly to entry into another world. Like so I was thinking maybe it's just something that you can see it in books and movies, and maybe nothing to do with real life because, yeah, that's a practical way to kind of approach. But later, as I grew up and started working, I realized that there is an entry into that world and there is a way to inhabit that world. Now, there is obviously there is my dad's influence, and my mom was totally a non book person but totally into gods and temples. And so they were like two different schools at home. My mother's room was full of uh, god pictures and those things. And my dad's room was full of intellectual books and Marxism and communism and literature, Tamil literature. So, in a way, the worlds don't meet except because I had two of them as parents. First, I kind of really thought my dad was cool. And later, much later, I started seeing my mother for who she was. So, in a way, these two worlds collided. And there is a lot of magic realism coming through that because, if you see like any movie like Karnan or Thiruvilayadal or any of those, Tamil movies that you and I would have seen as a child, there's fantastic stuff happening, and then there is pure graphic design. Somebody's throwing ball and becomes like a bomb
Yeah.
and water and something like that. Now we can dismiss that as like, oh, games, but it has got a visual history over this thing. And if you see like you said, cave drawings, it'll have like somebody fighting with a spear or something is going on. So in a way, the mythology and 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 in like intellectual things like history, they're all like kind of informs together. How I think. And my brother, much ahead of me, was 12 years older to me, and he did cinematography, acting, photography, and photography was one of his main things. He still does it. And so the material aspect of photography, which is seeing a camera, which is a Yashica or Minolta, and he gave me the first. My dad, meaning my dad gave me a first click three, but my brother gave me the first SLR. So I was like, and more importantly, I think he set me off to using a 50 mm and a 135 mm. He told me like block lenses. So I still see those, like I shoot 50 and 135. So it's a certain influence like that, like how you see, how you imagine, and like, like when you see like what is the focal length that you see the world. These are all like uh, aspects that kind of see how influence the way you tell stories. Yeah. So yeah. So mm, that is kind of a history. But in terms of movies, like I mentioned, like the 50s, 60s, a lot of black and white movies I've seen with my dad, a lot of books I've read and much after. And even now, I like books like The Little Prince, meaning which I've read a long time back, but still I remember as being a very sweet thing. So, and at some point of time, I grew up thinking I should write, I should make pictures, I should make music, I should draw, I should take photographs, and not like. And then later I thought I should buy a BMW, but but uh, but then I thought like these are like completely different worlds. I managed to do all this. I'm not the BMW because I went into Honda and then like I thought like this is fine enough. Like I'm good enough with this, but I want to build more on my artistic thing. Um, so there is a intention of like, all this I like. I love listening to music. So can I use something? Can I create something with it? Or can I be a part of this? Can I serve this? Those questions will come back. And then when you try, you put those into the thing back. Yeah. Yeah.
But growing up, did you think that you will one day become a photographer?
Um, Actually, no. Um, yeah, even now when you ask me a question, I go back to my 12-year-old self. I had no clue. And it's partly because I was hopeful, but pessimistic. I don't know like how these two words combine together, but I felt like maybe I it'll be great if I do something with the arts and languages, And in fact, post my I did biochemistry, which is meaning I could have done uh, literature, but I did biochemistry, and then end of it, I got through to a job in a pharmaceutical company, like a big job. They took me after a lot of this thing. And just when they are offering the letter, and I kind of panicked. That's the first moment I panicked and said, like, God, I wanted to write like poems and like, like take pictures. If I go this route, then I went and told them I have to meet my, relatives, blah, blah, blah. And then went and told my dad, please bail me out because I can't do this. And my mother told me, like, can't you pursue something that you like? So I went into MBA, then like a little bit of advertising. So I think that, I didn't give myself the privilege to believe that I could do this. And only when it was about to be taken away from me, I realized, oh shit, I'd rather, get that. So I still have that sometimes that problem in part of my life. Like, I think like maybe I won't get it, or I won't think like that. I'll be happy just creating and then like whatever it follows. Yeah.
Right. And you, after your MBA, you got into advertising, right? So, but in advertising, were you like a photographer or like a designer? What was your role?
Yeah. Yeah. In advertising, there is this business side, no? This servicing or,
Right.
yeah, client management that they call. So what I studied was not related to writing or art. So, so therefore, I couldn't become an art director or a writer. And I was happy to just go there as a business guy, writing briefs, interacting with clients, because my client communication was kind of all right. Communication skills were there in terms of, I mean, the language I polished much later, but like if I interact with someone, I'll be able to understand their motives or like what do they think, and then whether they buy this work or not. Those kind of things. So I used that, and I used my creative skills to inspire the teams and try to come out with better briefs, have a good time, those kind of things. So it started as servicing. Then I worked in 2, 3 places, and the longest stint was with JWT, which was then called HTA, then moved to JWT. That was like a
Is that why
fantastic.
you met? Is that why you met Solo?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
That's what I meant.
because
It's a great
I
organization. Yeah.
yeah. So Ravindran Solomon was my dad's student. I met him as
Oh, okay.
a I met him as a skinny 12 standard student, and I did internship at Mudra where he works. So he gave me a break there. Uh,
Okay, okay.
so I did
Nice.
my
I
when I was
also went to
when I
Mudra for internship, but they didn't give it to me.
so yeah,
You
it's
know, like,
interesting.
um,
I did my first internship at Mudra in Chennai. So yeah, so it's a really great experience. Yeah. So please go
hmm,
on. So how did your shift from client servicing to the artist to the the graphic side? Did it happen
yeah.
in the agency or outside of the agency?
It happened, first of all, yeah, I'm so grateful to everyone who worked with me at that time. Because they kind of, it was not an insecure agency. It was like a very free kind of an agency. So they were like, oh, you can do that also. Like, try it out. And my colleagues, my bosses, they were all very supportive of that. So I could do like, I'll just take off one day with the creative guys, go shoot something for them. We'll send it for awards. Then we will create another idea. In the meanwhile, I'll be like going and presenting work to my client and then selling it or, get feedback and going into meetings. So I could kind of then weekends, all our friends will be like shooting movies in the backyard with some video camera and like, taking pictures. So it was such a fertile, such a fun, very creative, energetic time. So I didn't, I was like, okay, now one time, I also made a calendar for JWT with like big pictures, very inspired from Prabhu's kind of, Prabhuda Dasgupta kind of work. And it came out well. But I never thought that I would go into this because I thought advertising was only like a lot of lights and a lot of retouching and a certain kind of, I've seen a lot of people just come with like big gear and saying that, hey guys, now I've got this like, get great pictures. So I was not into tech. So I was like, maybe it's very heavy tech. So I don't want to like try it. Then I told Anita, was my manager, saying that I'm done. I want to like try something else. So she said, you could do this now or finish this, go out and see what you can do. Um, at the same time, I met Bharat and Moni, who were like starting a graphic design kind of thing. And they told me they are doing like photography, films, everything that I wanted, books. And like a month before, I told my colleague sitting next to if somebody comes to me and tells me like I'm making books and pictures and film videos, I'll walk with them. And they came and told me this. So I told everyone that goodbye. So 1 year I trained with them. Then that agency kind of closed down. So I came back saying I'm a freelancer now. So because of this connection I had with JWT, they were able to tell me to come part time and
Right.
also gave me some shoots. So in a way, I was deeply like grateful to that work even now because um, it's also like some of your friends who will take chances with you. No, like
Right.
they will like put you out and they will give you chances because you're doing something that maybe they want to do or they want to support. That's going out and trying your own thing. So that whole phase worked out very well for me. That leap worked out well.
Right. 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 So it's
So then it
so
was
everything.
like I met my partner in Draft, which was that in between agency that Bharat and Moni had started. And then we both, Radha and I started doing projects. Then we continued doing projects. Then we started doing our own stuff. But, like, I think that time was a certain defining time in terms of the right people coming together, opportunities, etc. I didn't create too much of art though, but it was a good cushion pad to kind of come out and start doing my own work.
So when did
Yeah.
that start? Like, your journey from a client servicing person to then sort of branching out on your own.
Mhm.
Uh, you sort of doing all your commercial work, but when did your personal journey into art? When did that start? Like, was it the same time, or was that like an inflection point? Like, hey, I need to start exploring my own style and sort of go into all of those interests that I have, and then see
Yeah.
what I can create, as sort of a confluence of all those various sort of things that you
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah. It was parallel in some, like, it always existed. But, like, for me to craft my mm, photography skills, even for commercial work, it took some time. And it means that you try out everything that comes your way, then you succeed in some, then you build on it, and you fail in some. And sometimes for no reason of yours, the project will fail. So there is a lot of learning curve as a commercial photographer. And I did want to, like, have both fields. I didn't want to entirely go into art because I know that I had to sustain. And also I like working with large teams and creating work for them. So I had, like, spent a lot of time initially putting together my strengths when it comes to, like, handling equipment and working, all that. Parallelly, the voice inside will be very faint, and you will acknowledge it and you will develop it. But then you're not creating something that is what you, according to you, is not substantial. I started parallelly, like, when I came out of GWT, I started doing personal work. But it was like in a smaller measure, like cute, small stories, um, based around my son, based around where I'm living, the crows that I see, those kind of things. Because it's like you practice, and sometimes you believe that that is enough. But then, like, you build on it much more, and then you are in perpetual inspiration or agony or both, because you think, like, like time is passing by, and you're not like doing something that these guys are doing, and it's amazing. So there's a lot of FOMO that used to be there.
Yeah,
At some point, it kind of, yeah, it kind of breaks you, or you get something that goes out and people like it. Because it's at this point, it's all external, right? You want validation. You don't want
right.
memory. You want validation. You want people to think, like, wow, this guy, look at him, like, he's Jerry Maguire. He just quit his thing. Now he's got, like, the biggest thing going on for him, like Walter Mitty. Like, you see the characters around you and you want to be like that. Later you realize that, what, whether people are seeing you or not, the validation is coming from you. Like, you wanted as a child to do five things, and you are doing it. And what more do you need, right? You're able
Exactly.
to create, you're able to sleep, like, thinking that, oh, wow, like this, I did this, and I created this drawing, or I created this loop. And so, um, I'm not answering your question yet. Um, but this kind of a thing is where I am right now. But then what you're asking happened like 5, 6 years back, wherein, like, maybe my dad's story coming out, maybe that's the first point of validation. Till then, I'd gotten smaller things here and there. But something as simple as that, which I didn't know will come out. I've been going to Coimbatore. I'd been going to Coimbatore to see him. Then I picked this thing, and last minute I sent it out. And when it kind of came out as a good story and people acknowledged it, that's when I realized, all those things I try to construct with intellectual ideas are not, like, haven't worked for me. Wherein something I created out of just sheer experimental fun and something personal, it connected with everyone. So it of course, it means sometimes you do construct stories that, purely out of your brain, but this emotion kind of worked for me. And then that is the first time, maybe in 2019 or so, that is much later, when I realized that, like, enough of FOMO, let's just try to enjoy things. Let's try to enjoy things, and then try to enjoy good conversations, good interactions, and whatever we can create over time, it will kind of will go somewhere, you know?
Yeah, because it's yeah, today you talk about all the social media channels. Almost they're all like dopamine hits, right? Uh,
Crazy.
yeah. So everybody's kind of caught up in this kind of infinite loop. But uh, when you start creating stuff for your own satisfaction, that's when I feel like the best work comes out, right?
Yeah. Yes,
Um,
yes.
right, and you create it without any kind of expectation.
Yeah, yeah. A negative
Yeah,
expectation, thinking that, I'm just sending it out. I don't know what's going to happen. And maybe everybody will forget it. Yeah. But yeah, then I kind of did some more and some more, and it worked out. So wherever I'm doing this kind of personal and experimental, those are things are that are like being recognized. I did another story called I took some pictures and made a photograph during the pandemic. That
right,
got selected. Then recently I did Where is My Home? Stories about my mom and me. That
right.
got selected and sing. So these are all like intensely personal
Personal.
stories, which is true to me, and therefore it might be true to you and several others. Yeah.
Yeah, it touches a chord with people, I
Yes.
suppose.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, looking back, are there things that looking at, connecting the dots? I mean, you cannot connect the dots. You have to connect the dots only looking back. Are there things that you would have done differently?
Um. Yeah. I don't have a one answer to this question because like you've seen with multiverse movie, right? That everything everywhere all at once. Like
Yeah.
I've gone back and said like, okay, if I'd not joined biochemistry and joined uh, literature, what would have happened? If I'd not joined this, if I'd not like married, or if I've not had like separation, or like there's so many like dots, right? And I just don't know like how to predict what would have happened. And I think wherever I am, of course, it's added to this. Um, but at the same time, I know that I could have made some decisions differently in the past um, that out of awareness, I I could have hurt myself less and the others lesser. Um, so photography and art and these things are not just meaning I don't see as I also see as a spiritual and philosophical act of understanding and growth and stuff like that. It's just not like a unidimensional something that you put out. So when I think about all this, I feel like okay, maybe if I decided something earlier and tried out something, things would have been different. But I don't know if you and I would be speaking today. But something would have happened. I think we had choices, and exercising of the choices, you don't have the balls to do it at some point of time. And you kind of wrap around your logic saying it's better, it's safer, something. But then if a meteor is coming your way, you notice it earlier, it's better,
Yeah.
because you close your eyes and think like maybe it will just go that way. It's not going to go that way. The damage is much more to you and to others. So this is something, of course, it's not related to photography, but choices. But the choices affect your way of thinking, and the way of thinking affects your art and who you
Right.
become. And you can't be separate from who you are with your work. In this more and more, what you delve into, what are the kind of worlds that you're thinking of creating, what are the humanity that you see with your fantasy, and these kind of things inform, you know. And so I take it as a way to grow and think and evolve, and
Right.
yeah, if anything like that is there, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, as a photographer, like, were you sort of when you were starting out, uh, you know, trying to figure out like what kind of a photographer I am going to be. in that exploration, were there influences that you looked up to, or did you say no, I'll do my own thing and
No,
make
no,
my
no, for
mistakes and
sure, for sure. So there are like two streams. One is, of course, this what I keep coming back to, which is 50s, 60s, like the movies, right? Like anything done by Godard, Satyajit Ray, Kurosawa, Bergman, all these great guys. I used to go and watch with my dad inside one, like a screening theater. So those black and white, dense, grainy images, much like this dog and the mongrel and Mariana. So those are some things I accepted long back. I didn't see it as a grainy picture. I saw it as atmosphere. So there was like a lot of influence in that kind of an atmosphere. And also, like whether it's, like this Tamil writer or the great Sujata, um, or Godard or like Bukowski, like some of these guys take something like love or death or something and then twist it into a very like a fun kind of a thing and poignant or poetic. I
right,
like that kind of levity that people bring in. So some of these are big influences. And then Prabhuto Dasgupta, who passed away no more, um, he and his contemporary photographers in black and white lyricism, that's amazing. Then in advertising, I also liked Nadav Kandar, his kind of images, who's still a great practicing photographer. And I only knew like some of these limited things. And then I was influenced very much by like musicians like Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, and U2, and Jim Morrison, Doors, Joplin, and Beatles, and a sense of like psychedelic imagery that they kind of conveyed,
right,
Pink Floyd, and things like that. So this is the universe. So naturally, imaging is something that exists wrapped around these words, or like
correct.
it's like a zip file. Like you listen to the song, and it's like it opens you to thousand images like floating your way. So yeah, so I was in the middle of all that, always like that's the inspiration. And I feel like um drawing, I like it's kind of something to do with your hand and your eyes, and the photography is again a form that occupies my head. I think movies a little bit come to my chest, and then something about writing is like a full bodied experience, something that comes from the. So there are like, centers in your body that work for different arts. So that is also an interesting, in a way
Right.
that I kind of channel reading and writing and experiencing these things,
Yeah.
creating.
Couple of photographs I liked from your work was one where it was like a juxtaposition of two photographs where you have your father's face and a
Hmm,
plate with
hmm,
um,
hmm,
with a tumbler,
hmm.
and then you draw a line from top.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
And there's, I think,
yeah.
another photograph where like you have legs and then you had drawn uh, something on top,
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
right?
hmm.
So, I mean, how did you kind of chance upon that idea, and especially that caveman kind of drawings? Were,
Yeah, yeah.
and you said like I can only draw that, or because that's what comes to you, and you did that, or and how did this whole thing happen?
Juxtaposition is something I'd have no explanation for, because it's just I feel I just need to try something together by combining some random things. I would have thought like this plate is what my dad eats, and mm, there's some association with my dad on the plate and the food and some. So I would have tried to bring it up together. But the other like drawing of the legs and something, I really know like where it's come from. But I just let it come and go, and then if it works, it works. Um, from childhood, I've been drawing. Like I had difficult ideas about like how to draw. Then I didn't have like proper anatomy. Sometimes I do like copy drawings. So, but I used to scribble a lot in my early school and college, and uh, even like when I started working. But only when I kind of quit advertising and started drawing, thinking conceptual kind of drawings. And for me, I think again the influence of some of the old guys I've seen, they draw very simply, like childlike kind of drawings. But I didn't realize they did that after doing everything structurally. This is their diluted, not the diluted. This is their evolved form. So I was
Right.
like, oh, wow, this is so simple. Like, look at this kind of thing. So I tried doing that initially, it didn't come out. Then I started doing a little bit more furnished drawings, a little bit more kind of proper drawings, and slowly kind of withdrew from that to come to this point. So I can't still I can't draw you, or like I can't draw anything that's specific. But there will be seasons of drawing where if I sit for like 2 days, 5 days, maybe something will happen. And then after that, happens for 10 days, 15 days. And then that ship will sail for like another 3 months and come back. So after just, when it comes, I will start drawing. Now
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
another question I have is like the there's this conundrum, like, right, you have a style, and it's like a double-edged sword, right? The word style, you sort of get trapped in it. I mean, it goes for any artist. I mean, you take actors, for example. They're kind of trapped because Rajinikanth is a great actor, but he's kind of trapped in his own image. He's like this. He is his own enemy, sort of a thing. Like, do you feel like that sometimes, or do you say, okay, this happens to me, my style? How long am I going to continue this style, or should I then break this? And then do
yeah.
you get into that space? Like, do you have that question?
I think this is, yeah, meaning I think everyone goes through this question, especially because of the external validation. For example, like if I try all kinds of styles, my Instagram will look buggered totally, right? So you'll think like maybe I should just like do like this calm images. Um, but then, sometimes I feel like it's a, like you said, it's a gift and it's a problem that you can do 2, 3 types of work. Now, one way I've thought about it is, um, if I'm doing it for myself, or is it for an external validation? Like, if I'm changing my style for myself to explore something, then it's okay. If I'm doing it for a bunch of others who I don't really care about, or like a bunch of people who are doing something in Instagram, then maybe I should restrict myself, thinking not like that. At the same time, I know that right now I have an Instagram only for my personal practice and a little bit of fashion or something. Because once I drop in anything else, even my drawings, it doesn't sometimes go well. So I know that this presentation is another choice that you're making with presentation. But with your website, it's a bit more farther. The other thing I think about is that, like sometimes you randomly follow people who are like great, who are doing these things, but they'll be half your age. And, like your motivation and your energy at 20 to 30 is very different. You want to like go deeper, or you want to like just crush through something. And then when you're 45 plus and your energies are different and your motivations are different and you've gone through something. So often as photographers or artists, sometimes it's very easy to fall prey to following someone who's like 1/3 of your age and thinking, oh, that's cool, I want to try it. But what they are doing, you can never do. Their attitude is different. They're born in a different era, and like their reflexes are different. What you can do, they cannot do. So I think it's a time to like also to say that yes, my time is like different. Like this is the popular thing. This is what is happening on Instagram. These guys are 25 years old. These are guys are rocking. Yes, it's inspiring. But what is the 45-year-old, 50-year-old guys doing? What is the contemporaries doing? What are the things, conversation they're involved in? What podcasts they're listening, or what books and what world issue they're concerned with? What morality issues they're concerned with? If we tune into that and then we kind of make a connection with that sense with the world, then you will find that they're also kind of struggling with your same kind of thing, and they are trying to. The lucky ones are creating much more tune into themselves. And so in a way, Instagram is a knack that is put on by much more younger people, I feel. And then therefore that stage is once in a while, the channel is for you to go and see what is happening. Of course, you share. but they are getting work out of it. You're not getting work out of it. You're like just sharing some stuff. So you need to know that, you're not playing the game. So if you're not anyway playing the game, then you just be yourself and do your stuff. And then, I think post 40, 45, and before 50, I think there's like a big rage inside your head saying that, like, okay, now I'm coming back home. Like, I want to like see who I am. I want to put out what I am, because maybe there is limited nuances that I can try with its time and with people I meet and stuff like that. Um, so, so therefore, that the question to your answer for me, if at all, when it comes, will come from this space, from the space of knowing that, I'm older and I'm a more mature artist. Maybe I've traveled several lifetimes to come here. And at this point of time, if I'm looking at elsewhere, it's not going to work. May as well just use what you have, explore what you have,
And that will keep you kind of fresh.
That'll keep me fresh. And if I'm able to tell stories, see, everybody's going to like all these great guys I've like mentioned to you, everybody's going to go irrelevant, right? Like the greatest movie directors are at some point going to be irrelevant. They're going to last only for some time. So therefore, instead of following others, sometimes what happens, you spend your time following others, and then when it comes time to do your thing, you don't know what to do because you're kind of. So I hope like that disappointment doesn't come to us, and then we are able to sustain it, even if it's a slow burn. I tell myself and tell some other people that like like maybe like I saw 5 years back I started seeing a certain kind of an artistic success within myself and outside. And I hope it continues for another 10, 15, 20 years, and I continue to grow, continue to experiment, continue to like learn other things, like maybe like go into music and learn it or produce, like if I can lead this thing that I wanted as a child, that is write, read, draw, make pictures, make films, and be in that environment. And of course, now I want travel. I want like good relationships. I want to help people. There are a lot of like young photographers who come, who need direction, who need encouragement. Like some of this, balance it out, then that'll be like just great. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. So just uh, bookending this conversation. Um, do you have any future projects in mind? Number one, and number two, what will you say to your younger self? Like
Okay.
one thing you want to say to your younger self, what will that be?
Yeah. Okay. The first one is easy. I have like 3, 4 big projects, um, which I will end up doing in the next few years, long-term kind of projects. There are short-term projects, which I'm shooting right now. There is the Dream Theater kind of one fantasy, beautiful kind of project. Then there is one about portraits of my friends, which I'm trying to do. Then there is one book which we are putting out called the Family Album. It's full of drawings. It's a vision of a perfect universe, how it can be with animals and humans and plants existing together in a, let's say, parallel universe. So these are short-term things. My partner designed it. Um, um, so the long-term projects, which I don't want to like discuss about right now, but they're like important projects for me, and there are some are important projects for the Tamil language, which things like that. So yes, I have a lot of exciting stuff, which is, and also I feel enabled right now to create those. There's a certain proficiency with your craft and storytelling and confidence about your methods. So now it's the time that, like maybe the really things come together, So coming to my younger self, I, um, I don't know. I would probably tell my younger self to kind of honor his feelings and his gut and and have the courage to say yes or no to things, and to also like not worry about missing out on something, so therefore compromising on something. You know, I think the biggest thing is sometimes I've done like um, till something else better comes, I'll be like holding on to biochemistry or something like that. You know, like because I don't know, like I don't feel like privileged. I don't feel like, oh, I might get these or I can manifest these. So so I think like that guts, I might like ask him to have, saying that all
Right.
good things will come, trust in it, and just take decisions and then like move on, like, you know.
Just be patient and things will work out.
Yeah. Also, I think there is patience. Yeah, patience I've always had. But to think of like, you know, like if I see now, if I put myself in the 12-year-old self, now I might think I want to be experience the greatest joys in art creation and human interaction and creating with others and maybe having a certain comfort and wealth. Um, and now I might be thinking, maybe it's not achievable. Maybe it's not, all this is not achievable. Maybe it's not realistic. But what if I believe, yes, I am walking up to it. I am going to get this in the next few years. I'll have all of this, and then I can help more people. I can help myself. I can enjoy a better life. Now, if I believe this way, then my decisions will be like different. Like knowing for
Right.
sure that your dad is going to catch you when you're jumping. You know, than thinking that he might drop you. You know, he might get distracted. So a certain leap of faith like that, and trust that
Right.
I want for myself. You know.
Right.
Um, and I would have told the little boy to have it, but I'm telling now that I should have it. So it's a good point. Yeah, closing, I guess. Yeah.
Thanks a lot
Thank you.
for the
Thank
chat. It
you.
is really, really
Good fun.
insightful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good fun.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Pleasure is all mine. It was great talking to you.
Great.